Welcome to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. Empowering women like you to amplify your voice, your message, your movement. We believe that if 10,000 new women stepped into high-level leadership platforms, we can transform the industries across the planet. 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. And now your host, Narissa Street.
Hi. Oh my goodness, how you guys doing? Again, it's Narissa Street with 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. So excited to have with me someone who, oh my goodness, when I first heard what she did, I said, no, you don't, because you have to. You have to come talk to our audience because, anyway, let me tell you. So we are really excited to bring to you today Azhelle Wade, the toy coach. What?
That's
Hi,
great.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. I'm glad to have you. Thank you for taking the time to be here.
Sure.
So let's start from the very beginning. Who are you?
Okay.
Tell us about yourself.
My name is Azhelle Wade. I started in the toy industry 10 years ago. So right now I'm a toy designer, a toy consultant, and a salsa dancer and bachata dancer on my free time. And I am now known in the industry as the toy coach.
Okay, so so you got to tell us a little bit more. So you're in the toy industry, which I mean, I think feels like it could be anything. So talk about how'd you've been in the field for 10 years. How'd you get into the field?
Right. Everyone always wants to know, like, how did you even find out that this was a real thing?
Right.
So I always knew I was going to work with kids, right? So I was always thinking like maybe I'll be a teacher, maybe I'll be a psychologist. And then I actually ended up at the Fashion Institute of Technology and I was studying exhibition design. And I was actually designing like children's exhibitions. And I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to work for like the Hall of Science, the Children's Museum in New York City. And I was designing all these exhibitions for kids. And then one of my teachers told me, he was like, there's a toy design program here. And I was like, no, there's not. Like, that's not a thing. And I was like, I'm trying to like have a job and make a career. Okay. Like, that's not real. And he was like, no, this is a career. And he's like, this is a lucrative career path.
Shut up.
Nonetheless. Yeah. And, I couldn't believe it. And I looked into it and I think it was 2 years later, I got into the bachelor's degree program, the toy design program at FIT. And the head of that department really took a liking to me. So she kind of guided me along my way. And from there, that department really makes sure that every person that's there is highly qualified so that by the end of the 2 years, they place you with a first job. So it's got like a 95% job placement rating, but it's a very small program. Mm-hmm. And that is how I got my first jump into the toy industry.
Okay, that's really awesome. So there's a couple of things that I think are amazing and have to be pulled out. So first, that you got yourself into an academic program that focused on where you had a love, right? And then that you were able to attract a mentor, which is so key.
I like that.
Was able to
mentor.
Yeah, because I mean, I think people don't get that because you said someone who took a liking to you, and people tend to think that, oh, they took a liking to me by accident. What were you doing that made them take a liking to you?
Oh, right. Well, I know why. Now I know why she loves me so much. It's because I think she saw how determined and focused I was. And then once we started talking, the first thing she said to me, I was like, hi, I'm really interested in this program and I want to know more about it. And she told me that they had like a preliminary course that you could take before getting into the program so that you could kind of build up a little portfolio to apply for the program with, but also so you could see what it would be like. So when she said that, I was like, oh yeah, 100%, I'm in, I'm taking that. And I think that those little things are probably the things that showed her this is somebody who doesn't just say they want something. This is somebody who's willing to put in the work to get it. And I think you're right. Like, I didn't even realize it at the time, but I was attracting her by showing her I'm a hard worker and I'm going to be representing you and your department really well if you let me in.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we feel, I did a workshop a couple years ago called Charming the Gatekeepers. And
Yeah.
I think we feel like there's this magical thing, but just being unafraid to show your enthusiasm about something. And then you were already in something you were passionate about, so it was genuine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, speaking of passion, what are you excited about now in your industry?
I'm I'm actually getting excited because there's a huge shift happening because of COVID, and everything going online. The industry's had, I think it's a 16% lift. Yeah, and normally year over year, it's an industry that grows like 1%, single digits.
Hmm.
So now it's been 16% already, right?
Oh.
And that's in sales. That's different from like what retailers are buying, but that's in sales. But I think I'm hoping what can happen from this is that um, that toy companies are, instead of being led by retailers, they're going to start being led by children and parents, and really being led by like the needs of society. Because right now, one of the things that I often say is that we don't really design toys for kids, we design toys for Walmart, you know. And I know
Ooh.
it's so bad, but it's so true, because you're designing something that you know the buyer will feel safe putting in their store, right? So right now, what's happening with COVID, everything is going online. But that's not just sales that's going online, marketing is going online. And like content is becoming king. I mean, even more so, but content that's not just movies, right? Like
Right.
YouTube content, Instagram content, that's becoming king. And that's starting to control and lead toy sales even more. So, what I think and what I'm predicting is going to happen is that, you know, buyers are not going to be able to say like, no, I don't want green in my aisle because that's not what the kids want or what has been selling. But now it's going to be, oh no, the kids want green, and here's like 100,000 YouTube followers on this video that's telling you that. And
Right.
so I'm excited because I feel like we're at this impasse where kids are going to regain control over the toy industry, and maybe the pink aisle won't be pink anymore, and like, you know, maybe it'll really be reflective of like what kids want and not just what, you know, our society thinks they should want.
So much to unpack. Okay, so like, and I'm getting so excited. I'm turning around, my computer's falling all over the place. All right. So, first, we
Yeah,
don't design for kids, we design for Walmart. So,
right.
a few things about that, meaning
Let's
that
talk about that.
I think people approach commerce and don't understand, again, the gatekeepers don't understand the things that you like, the hoops that you have to jump in order to
Yes.
get what could be a really viable product in
Yeah.
front of the eyes. And so, like, what I'm hearing you say is that now that there's been some equalization in
Mm-hmm.
access,
Mm-hmm.
now you already have the proven market. Because I was looking
Yeah.
on your site, and your site has this thing about, like, and there's like these places where people can get in, and Kickstarter is one of them.
Yeah, for
And I
sure.
think that what I love about Kickstarter, because I actually took a Kickstarter class early this year, and I love about it that it shows that's your proof of concept. Like, we have a
Yeah.
term in
Yes.
film called proof of concept.
I
That
say social proof. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Mm-hmm.
it. That's it. Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh, ooh. There's so much to unpack. And then
Yeah.
green aisle, blue aisle, what? Green aisle, pink aisle. Like, there's like a thing in
Yeah. Yeah.
toys about different colored aisles.
Well, I mean, I went to Target today just doing some research
Right.
for a project. And I mean, I know that there's a pink aisle. Like, I know, but I haven't been in a while because of COVID, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
don't go as frequently. So when I went today and I like walked past the pink aisle, I was like, oh my God, it's really pink. Like, it is so pink. Like, and I have a pink wall in my house. I love pink, but it is so pink. It's ridiculous. And then I kept walking and got to an aisle, which it's almost like a second pink aisle, but it's like MGA Entertainment's aisle.
Mm-hmm.
And
What's
their product,
MGA Entertainment?
oh, MGA is LOL dolls. They do all of the LOL dolls, the
Gotcha.
Rainbow High. That's the company that does those
Okay.
products. Blockbusters. Like, they sell like crazy. And I think I'm still analyzing how they got to where they got. I'm like researching things, trying to figure it out. But what I saw in the aisle is like their boxes aren't all pink. The first items that they first produce are very like pink and white heavy. And as they gain control over the market and they prove themselves with their sales, their packaging switched over to like teal and like fluorescent yellows. And like they've got a real mix. Like when you go to their aisle, it is not pink, pink, pink. It's like it has other weighted like teals and purples and deep like jewel tones. And I know from my research what they were doing before everybody else is they were involving like influencers. And I think with Kickstarter, it's kind of the way that smaller companies are able to gain kind of online influence. So like MJ, I think has been doing it for way long. They've got their foothold, they got the control, and now they can put out the kind of product that they want. But I think what's going to happen is other companies, if they can show social proof, like this blue box for girls sells, then eventually they can go to Target and be like, look at all these online sales. Look at our Amazon ranking. Take this product, you know?
So what I'm hearing is that we are still putting things for girls in pink boxes. Like that's still like a thing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
People don't understand that this social conditioning is like it's just still there, and they don't realize that I really want us to get the power that we have in shifting consciousness.
Yeah.
You know, if we are aware that, you know, you're like, oh, there's a pink aisle. Yeah. Like I might walk down the aisle with my niece.
Yeah.
And not think about that. But the fact that, yeah, there's a clear, now that you're saying that, there is a clear, like, if I walk down a dark colored aisle, I know this is an aisle for boys.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's weird. It's a shame. But I do think MJ is changing that. I really do. Like when you go down their aisle, there's pink, of course, like, you know, but it's like accents. It's not the whole thing.
That's interesting. And I guess we don't really even think about how our toys are contributing to the socialization of our children in a certain mindset.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So okay, all right. So it's exciting. And so one of the reasons I love having you here to talk to our audience is to really, elucidate to them that leadership is everywhere. Like opportunities for leadership, opportunities for you to stand out in your industry and shift the industry are everywhere. So, so I have a question about that. So you're there and you're in the industry, and this mentor, going back to your story, your mentor said, okay, look, hey, let's put you into this program. So then how did you get from there to where you are now?
Well, it's a long road.
That's okay.
So when I graduated the toy program, and I want to say I was not like the most talented illustrator in that program. Toy ideas didn't even come naturally to me. I had to train myself to be creative in the ways that I needed to be to create toys, right? So it was hard work, and I redid so when you're doing a toy concept, the most important thing is that you put up a toy board, right? So you have a presentation board that shows the whole concept. And for me, creating that presentation board was the absolute hardest part. So like I had to redo my presentation boards more times than anybody else. Like it was just, I knew it. Like the first time I drew it, I knew I'm going to draw this like 5 times. Like this is not the end. But I worked really hard so that eventually when I graduated, she believed in me, and my mentor placed me with this really great company called Horizon Group USA. And I got to be a part of their new product development team. And with that team, I didn't understand really what it was at the time, but eventually I came to realize like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to invent new things. They wanted to create a small team that was gonna help them go after their competitors, help them develop products that could steal shelf space from their competitors. That was my whole goal with my boss, and I think there were 2 other people on our team. In that position, I got 2 patents. And then I got to a point where I was like, I think I could be like making more money and have more responsibility. So of course I went and asked for more money because that's just like what I do. But it wasn't the right time for the company for me to move it up that way. So
Sticking a pin.
Okay.
Sticking a pin. Hold on.
Hey, this is a great episode, right? Want to carry the insight from our show wherever you go? Visit myjoyisvaluable.com for the best resources that we've gathered that are inspired by expert guests. Find support for your business, tools to organize your life, and more. That's myjoyisvaluable.com.
Yes.
I want people to hear that you're like, yes, I thought it was time for me to make more money. And so I just asked. People have this thought that, that they can't just ask. And it's okay that it wasn't the right time. But for them to see that ambition.
Yes.
Right? Women have been trained to like wait for the right time for things.
No. So, what I noticed at that specific company is there were a lot of people that worked there that, this was also in a time where America was just taking on student debt and people didn't understand what they were taking on. And luckily I understood, so I wasn't doing that. But there were people that were working there that were being supported by their parents. So they could accept less. And then I think that was throwing off the balance for up and coming people like me that were not being supported by their parents and could not. Like, it just got to a point where I was like, I literally cannot afford to work here. Like, I have to move on. And I believe that I'm worth more than this. And I know that I have to move on. So I remember, and I've worked there for 2.5 years. One of my other mentors came from that position. And now he's like a very good friend of mine. And when I was leaving, I was so scared because this was like a up and coming company. I was doing great things. I was getting respected. I was really scared. And I remember going to all of these recruiters and reaching out to all these companies for jobs and telling them what I wanted to make, which at the time was like, I would say 10 to 20,000 more than I had been making in the other job. And they were like, not laughing, but they were like, yeah, okay, that's not going to happen. And I was like, well, then I'm not going to work for you. I'm like, why would I leave my comfortable where everybody knows me and go work for you for like, no, this is what I'm worth. So I kept fighting. And eventually I found actually a recruitment company that it was a bunch of women and they believed in me and I love them to this day. We work together and I told them what I wanted and they fought for me and they got me into a position where I was making 5,000 less than I wanted, but with a stipulation that after 3 months we would evaluate my work and then I would make what I was aiming to make. Right. And that, and then, so from there, then I was like, okay, I'm doing this and I was focused and that this next company, it was a little bit of a step down, I would say, in the toy industry because this company was mostly in crafts and buttons and they wanted someone to help them create product to bring them into the toy aisle. So that's what I was doing. Right. And then from there, so after I could see, after like, I think it was there 2 years, things with the company were getting weird. I had some great products, but I wasn't getting the recognition and I wasn't getting the opportunity like I wanted to grow. So I decided, I'm like, all right, I'm going to keep looking. And then that is when like the biggest career break for me happened. And that was when I applied and got a call back for Toys R Us. And I know, it's like, when I had Toys R Us, I was like, okay, like this is huge, this is it. And I remember at the time, one of my good friends told me, oh, you should ask for this amount of money. And what they were telling me to ask for was like almost double what I was making. Like, I was like, no way. I was like, you're crazy. And they were like, you have 3 patents. They were like, you have 3 patents. You've been in this industry 6 years. You've managed this. You've managed that. You've made this program that generated $140,000 in 14 weeks at this last company. Like, ask for this. And I was comfortable at my last job. So I was like, all right. I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I remember to this day, like sitting on the phone in the parking lot, talking to this recruiter, this Toys R Us recruiter, and giving my number. And I was so nervous, but also a little apathetic because I was comfortable at my job. So I was like, it's okay if this doesn't happen. Like, I'm comfy. It's fine. And she was like, yeah, okay, we can do that. And
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, wait. I was like, what? I was like, is this what is happening in the world? That's
Yes.
I was like, is this what the world is experiencing? And I was just like, oh my God. Now I look at it and I'm like, you just never get what you don't ask for. So from that point on, I tell my friends and myself, like any situation, I'm always, if I know that I'm going to deliver you a certain amount of value, I'm going to ask for my worth. Like, that's just going to be what happens. And I just have, when I go into a company or into an interview, I think I used to, and I try to tell women this all the time. Like, you want to come into the interview not thinking like, oh, I want them to like me, you know, like, oh, I want them to accept me and to bring me in. You want to come into the interview and think of it as, I want to see what they have to offer me. And if that's in money or if that's in what I'm going to learn, right? You want to go in, and it's fine. Like, it's like the only time you can have ego, because honestly, working for another company, you are giving up a huge portion of your life. You know,
Right.
you're putting you got to put a price point on like your time.
Yes.
Like, it's more time then you're going to spend at home if it's a big
Yeah.
position. So it's like, you got to think about it like that. And I'm all for, like, I'll make successions. Like, I've worked for companies where I'll say, okay, you can't pay me this, so how about I get more vacation time, or how about I get this? That's fine. But you have to understand your value and your line in the sand before you walk in that door. And like, that's how I've gone through the industry, and that's how I've made every decision, even deciding to be the toy coach and to leave my full-time job. That decision was really made on like, okay, what is my time worth now? And like, what is, like, I don't know, what is my education worth now? Because if your job isn't educating you and helping you grow, and if you get to that point where you're helping them grow and that's all that's happening, then you have to kind of ask yourself, like, okay, is this worth, maybe I'll just stay for money. But if it's not enough money, then you have to be like, listen, maybe it's time for me to take a pay cut or to do this on my own, just so that I can grow and learn more, so I can have more down the road. So I know, like, when I left my VP job to do the toy coach, I was so scared, but I was also like, there's so much opportunity here. Like, because then I'm betting on me instead of betting on somebody else, right? I'm betting on me.
So much. Like, I didn't even have to ask questions, y'all. She just
I'm
told you
sorry.
all the juice.
You got me on a roll.
She just told you all the juice. I'm telling you, she asked for twice what she normally got.
It did.
Okay, that's number one.
Oh, I have a better part of that story.
Continue.
So I asked for what I asked for, and then they asked me late in the game what my current salary was. Like, they asked, like, after I'd gotten the job offer. And I was like, listen.
Why does it matter now?
I just want to say, like, honestly, I just want people to know that you don't have to disclose. And also, you can definitely, like, take your salary, take your bonus, pile everything together. If you feel like you have to give them a number, put a value to all of your bonuses, your vacation, pile all that together, and then give that number and say that that number is all inclusive of your bonuses, but not separate it all out. So, like, if you really feel like you have to give a number, I would do that. But honestly, I feel if I had given a number, it would have completely changed the trajectory of my life. And I think that I was worth what I got, for sure. I know I was. I grew that business like 4% of, it was a $20 million business, and I grew it 4% in my first, I think, year of doing just one area of business that I was managing. So I know that I was worth it. But if you don't ask for it, no one's going to believe that you're worth it. So it's like, yeah.
That is, there's so many lessons in all of that. I mean, the fact that you just were like, look, I've got the expertise, and just your career was just built, the steps that you took were really built on your vision and confidence, right? I mean, yes, and numbers and results.
Right.
So all three.
Yeah.
But people have a tendency to just, okay, I've got this, and they don't quantify They don't
No.
have the confidence is not there because they just don't know their numbers. They're like, this is the value I'm bringing to this space.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, asking for twice the amount. And wait, listening to, well, really, where is Toys R Us now? And you got out, you know what I'm saying? So this is the other thing as well. I want to make sure that people are getting that
Yeah.
despite the fact that you knew you were worth something
Yeah.
larger, went to a recruiter, said, this is the number, had the recruiter battle for you to get the number. When
Yeah.
you knew it was time to go,
Right.
there was no weird sense of obligation and duty
No,
that
no,
kept you
no.
stagnant. Right. So
Right.
let's talk about that because I mean, I've
Okay.
got some other questions, but
That's a good point. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so
You know,
what was
I
it? It was
think
just like, hey, it's time to go.
so. Actually, with my last employer, I felt this way, 100%. And it was because this was a leadership role, a big leadership role. I was VP of brand and product. I had hired 3 people and I was managing a much larger team and I'd gotten a lot of accounts for them. So um, I had not only managed a huge account, but I created more work. I created more accounts. So I definitely felt like, oh no, how can I leave like this company that I've done so much for? And honestly, it's something I struggled with a lot. And I actually, today I found my pro and con list that I wrote up because I had a hard time deciding and making that move. And it just came down to the fact I had another mentor. And I told her, I was like, look, I'm thinking of leaving my job and I feel super guilty. I don't want to leave my team. I don't want to leave my boss. Like, what do I do? And she advised me that what you got to do is, and I don't know if you can do this if you're not in a leadership position, you'll probably have to tailor it to your position. But she advised me that when I'm in meetings, make sure that I am pulling back and like pushing my team to take control little by little. And so I started doing that. I started saying like, I would be in transit like for a meeting and to be like, oh, can you like handle this part, please? Or I would say like right before the meeting, oh, can you pull up the agenda and walk us through? So I didn't tell them why, but I just started kind of pushing responsibility on them so that they wouldn't need me as much. And I started making sure that they understood why we were doing things. And it's so funny because I didn't know if it was working. But when I actually put in my 2 weeks, one of my employees said to me, she was like, yeah, I did notice that you were like pushing us to be more independent. I was like, oh, you noticed? So, and I was like, did it work? So I think that if you feel that sense of obligation, you just have to understand like the world's going to keep turning with or without you. The best thing you can do is just keep a positive relationship with the people that you worked with by making sure that they're set for when you leave and just giving 100% till the day you leave and making sure that you give all the passwords, you give all of the forms and the schedules and that they know exactly how you used to do things so that they know that you're not just leaving them hanging to dry.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And I
Yeah.
think that that's an ethical that will allow you to have that ethical. It doesn't pull on you that you left
Yes.
people in the wrong way. And I think that's the
No.
other thing as well that people don't realize messes with you. If you have loose ends that need to be
Yes.
tied up in other
Yes.
places, then that is part of what builds your confidence. So,
Yes.
if you want to leap forward, but gosh, I got a whole bunch of loose ends tied up over here, then you don't feel the worth that you're
No.
supposed to have.
I would say
So,
you work your hardest your first days of your new job and your last days. Because I feel like the first days you're proving yourself, and then the last days you're like, oh no, I gotta finish everything so that there's not a stone unturned when I leave. So yeah,
yeah. So let's dig in a little deeper because you talk about leadership, and I think the thing is that certain people don't see themselves as leaders because they feel that there's this facade that they have to maintain. So how do
yeah.
you how do you handle disappointment?
Oh, that went a whole different way. I didn't expect. I don't think I handle it well. I did not handle it well at all. My initial reaction when I'm disappointed is like silence, kind of like frozen. But in my mind, I'm thinking, why did this happen? What did I do wrong? Who messed this up? If it wasn't me, like I'm freaking out. But I think what's important is when you have those moments that you don't just act on those feelings, that you like sit in them, right? And you just like deal with them internally, and then you take like smart action. Then you take informed action, you take thoughtful action. And I mean, there have been a couple of times, like say I make an item and it doesn't sell well. It's more about, okay, so how do we remedy this right now? Like, do we have to mark it down? You know, can we stop future orders? I'm just I'm a very action oriented person. So when a problem comes through, say the problem is the item's not selling well, I look at it from several different points. I'm like, okay, so what are we going to do with the items that are in store? What are we going to do with the items that are in production? Like, can we stop production? Can we mark down in store? What else can we do to help this item get? So I think with disappointment, I just try to come at it from all angles to rectify the situation.
And I like the fact that there's a thought that you got it, like but then there's still an internal process before you take action, which is awesome. So what mistake have you made that you're most grateful for?
Grateful for? Okay, I would say, I don't know if I want to say that. Okay.
You don't have to.
I guess I don't know. Okay, okay, this is it. All right, here we go. So I have a clothing company called Costumize Me on the side. The mistake I made, it's a big one. I invested, it's like a twofer kind of mistake. I invested way too deep in my initial designs before getting feedback, before getting like customer feedback. And I had built into my schedule a point to take that feedback. And I got too excited, like sales started coming in and I was just like, screw the feedback, and I was just like, let me just make more, Yeah. And, what I learned from that, because, I do toys full time. So doing that clothing company on the side was just something completely new for me. And it was discovering a new market, new reason people want to buy, and sizing is like a whole world. But that experience opened up so many more realizations for me, because I had to take my product, and I realized that my product was designed really well for Black women, but I hadn't been marketing to Black women. So then after having invested so much money in marketing toward the wrong people, because my models were white, my ads are white and everything like that. So then the sales that were coming through a little bit harder because people weren't matching up with the size chart, because the waists were small and the hips were big, right? So what happened from there is I actually had to start going out in person and selling my product at salsa events, because that's part of my life and my community, to selling them to Black women. And all of that is a big chunk of why I even started the Toy Coach, because that whole marketing lesson, I listened to a ton of podcasts, and there's one specific podcast that kind of inspired me with this idea, because I'd been trying to figure out like how to understand my target market with the clothes, and like what they wanted and what they needed, and how I could, connect with them on social media and share information with them about my product. And then one day it hit me and I was like, wait, why am I trying to like learn something and teach something completely new? Like, why am I not also doing this with my toy knowledge? I was like, this could be a whole thing in its own. So two things happened from that. I launched the Toy Coach, but I also decided to pause and redo Costumize Me, so that I want to make it into something that's more African focused, like just like for Black women. Because when the women at the salsa festival saw my product, they're like, oh my God, it fits so well. Like it doesn't fall off my butt. It like hugs my thighs and it's comfortable. Seeing their reactions, I was like, marketing is everything. So now in the toy industry and Toy Creators Academy, I'm like showing people, like, if you don't know how to market your toy to the right people who want to buy it, no one's going to see it. The right people aren't going to see it. No one's going to buy it. So that would definitely be the worst mistake, but also grateful.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So there's so much to learn about that as far as the understanding your market, and that is something that a lot of us do. We start seeing a little bit of sales and say, hey, we got something, and
That's
it
it.
is something you put out, you listen, you
Yes.
you listen, you shift. So it is a constant. So I know that some people in my audience worry about, going back to what you were talking about the toys. They worry sometimes about having a very specific niche. So I've heard that before, like,
Uh,
I'm really clear with these folks. But that's one of the reasons I was really excited when I spoke with you. So what
yeah.
gives you the confidence to stick to toys?
I mean, it's just what I know. Honestly, it's just, I have been tempted to switch to help entrepreneurial women, to help women starting podcasts, because I have friends that come to me with that advice. But um, when I stuck with toys, I realized, like, the people, like anyone that has an inkling for an idea, if they want to invent something, they come to me because they see that I'm so hyper focused. If I wasn't so hyper focused, they wouldn't trust me and feel like they needed me as much as they do. But I've got people from all over the world just reaching out, asking simple questions like, where do I go for this? How do I find this? Where do I go for that? And that's because I'm so focused. There are other inventor companies out there, but none of them are focused on just toys.
That's key, and I think that's where you're able to raise yourself to the level of expert and thought
Yes.
leader because you're so immersed in it. So,
Yes.
oh my goodness, this has been amazing. So,
Yeah.
a little bit personal. What do people get wrong about you?
Ooh. If I hear one more man tell me to smile in my pictures online, I just
People are still doing that.
online. It used to happen in person. Now it's online. I'm like, you know what? Stop it. So I feel like they get that wrong. Like, people tend to think like, oh, she's so serious. Oh, she's like, I know. Oh, she's so negative. And I'm like, listen, just because you can't handle reality, like, that is not my problem. Okay. Like, I'm a very happy, joyful, positive person. But when somebody comes to me with an idea that I don't think is gonna work, or they have a plan that I think is like unrealistic, you're going to see it all over my face. And I feel like sometimes it could get construed as like, oh, negative. And I'm like, no, this is like 10 years of experience telling you like that's not going to happen.
Well, I'm making toys and I want to be happy. And I think I think
Like,
I think that's like, well, we're making toys, so it's gonna be no, but I mean, like, why would you spend,
no.
thousands of dollars in design and hours upon hours of your time
Yeah.
in the wrong direction, especially someone in front of me? I'd prefer somebody, pop my bubble than happily send me.
People aren't ready for the bubble pop. They're not ready. Like, I want to help you get there, but I want you to have realistic expectations about where you're going. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Oh my goodness, this has been amazing. This has been
Yeah.
and so affirming. So, what question do you wish I had asked?
Oh, I, I guess maybe what was the biggest thing I overcame in my toy career?
Please answer that.
But it's totally untoy related.
And it doesn't have to be toy related. So tell us, please
when
answer that question.
when I was working at Toys R Us, happiest place on earth, so excited. I was diagnosed with kidney cancer, and yeah, and I remember being in the parking lot, like leaving late one day. I always worked late, and just crying because I just thought like my life was over. Like, everything I was googling was like, you're gonna die. Like, you've got like a 20% chance to live. And I was just like, oh my God. I couldn't believe it. I didn't believe it. Like, I don't know if I didn't believe it because something in me knew it wasn't really going to happen, but I didn't believe it. I was like, how could this be it? I had so many dreams. But that whole experience also showed me there was a lot of lack of support from some of my team members back then, that they were just not understanding people. And it was very like inhuman, and the way that they would treat you until they found out it was kidney cancer. Then obviously everyone's like, oh, but that shifted my perspective. That had me restart Costumize Me and go into it big. And I think had that not happened, I wouldn't have thought I need to get out of this company just because it's not a healthy environment for me. And the whole company isn't that way. I just was on a team that wasn't ideal for me. But I knew then, I was like, okay, I have to move on. And that just propelled me forward in my career. And I think starting Costumize Me, doing all of that, made me ready to start Toy Coach and really understand the mechanics that you need to make it successful.
Wow, that's tremendous. That's tremendous.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we had the opportunity to hear that from you. And I think and interesting, because I looked on that was a surprise to me, because did some research. It's not in your story, which is interesting.
Yeah, I'm working on the story. I gotta write it. It's very long. Yeah.
So that's my niche.
Oh, okay.
That's why, why is that not in your story?
I know. I have to write it really well. I can't just write it badly.
But that's what's called, and pardon my language, but one of my favorite virtual mentors, it's called a shitty first draft.
Oh yeah, I know.
So just get that in there, because that's tremendous, and that definitely will raise your expertise up to here, because
really?
That's your hero story. There's a way for you to leverage that. So yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
But this has been an absolute honor and a pleasure. So is there anything that you wanted to leave our audience with? Definitely make sure you leave our audience with where we can find you, and anything else.
Yes. So if you look for the Toy Coach anywhere, thetoycoach.com, you will find me. But most importantly, I want you to go to toycreatorsacademy.com. This is going to be my big course for anybody that wants to develop a toy idea into a toy business. And that could be if you want to sell the toy yourself or you want to sell the idea. Go to toycreatorsacademy.com and you just fill out some information so you can learn more about the course. My first launch is coming in September, but don't worry, I'm going to have more launches, and if you're on the email list, you'll be informed about when they are.
That's fantastic. So thank you for sharing that with us. It has been an honor. It has been my pleasure. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. Share this episode with someone who needs it. Find us at 10,000women10,000stages.com.